Hi, this is Tanya Waring with Purpose Powered People, and I'm super excited to have Colonel Tim Cole with us today. Colonel Cole, you have served so many people in your life, and it's just a privilege to have you be a part of our book and our organization and what we're doing. And I'm going to start off the interview by asking you to share something good about your day today. Let's just get it going with good stuff.
Yeah, it's been a fun day. So one of the things that I've been fortunate to do is I'm helping out with our nation's Medal of Honor recipients. They come to Dallas for a couple of different events each year. And on one of those, I'm actually in charge of kind of hosting them and assisting them while they're here.
Wow.
Now, we do have a handful of Medal of Honor recipients from the most recent global war on terror, but most of our Medal of Honor recipients are out of Vietnam, Korea, and we even have a World War II recipient still with us. So they need a little help getting around. Anyway, this morning I got a great heartwarming message from one of our Medal of Honor recipients that says he's going to be in town, and I just enjoy he and his wife, and it's kind of helped. That's been a part of my day. Let's put it that way. It's been a very upbeat part of my day. So, thanks for asking.
Yeah. Now you have you've really started to build your purpose, and you shared earlier what your purpose is that you write out every day on your 3x5 card. And you've started to bring that into really being an advocate for our military veterans and their families.
Right.
Can you share a little bit more about that and how that's evolving even as we speak?
Yeah, so I'm not sure you take care of us on time, but I'll just tell you that in order to kind of get there, I want to go back a little bit further and just tell you that from a heritage standpoint, I come from a blue collar background, and I was the first in my family to go to college, right? So, and I used football to do that, but not long after I got out of college, I ended up going to the military. In my life, I've been able to experience some things that for the most of my family, they've not been able to experience. And I've come to have a great value for our nation, for those who serve others. And that's not just the military, it's nurses and doctors, it's our teachers, especially educators, those that give back to the community. But I've been very fortunate in my life to kind of be in the right place at the right time. And after 31 years in the military, most of that in the reserve, but quite a bit of active duty, especially during the global war on terror. I've been fortunate to meet a lot of really interesting and intriguing people, including you and Jessica and Gary. And anyway, it's a rich blessing. I have a great place in my heart for our nation's veterans, right? Mm-hmm. These are the people that serve and sacrifice so that we can have the life that we have here in America. And I'm not going to hold this up as perfect, but I heard it said recently, we're the best of the worst, which is, or the best of all the rest. There's some things we don't always do right, but as a nation, we really are blessed with tremendous amounts of individual freedom. It gives us the opportunity to grow, change, and impact and affect the world around us. So you mentioned the 3x5 card. So a gentleman I go to church with named Scotty Sanders introduced me to a simple 3x5 program. Every day you write your purpose, your passions, your yearly goals. You identify your daily activities, and then you write 3 priorities for the day and then 3 gratefuls for the day.
Wow.
And so just some of that is repetition, just always writing your purpose and your passions. But it also allows you to have focus at the beginning of the day. If you'll take a few minutes, about 10 minutes in the morning, that allows you to stay on your focus. So for me, that is to connect and encourage, to learn, live, love, and serve. That is my purpose. And so now, after 31 years in the military and kind of wrapping up a professional career, I'm looking at giving back in different ways. One of those is what we talked about, helping our Medal of Honor recipients when they come to Dallas for some different events and helping veterans. I'm curious if I answered the question. Or
Yeah. I really am glad that you shared with us the 3x5 card, because it is about purpose and teaching others how to have purpose in their life, and that we each have a unique purpose. And one of the things that you just inspire me with is your focus and commitment and follow through in who you are. And it's just like an essence of you that permeates in everything you do. And you just have some phenomenal stories about families that you worked with to really put them in touch with their parents' heritage or their own heritage. And I'd love for you to share some of those stories to give context to what it is that you're doing these days with your time.
Let me close up on the 3x5. It's interesting. You can go through education, you can go through training, 23 years in business, you can go through a lot of things. But when you find we call them life hacks now, but when you find a hack that helps you do the work of working through your purpose and then identifying your true passions and what are those yearly goals and identifying them and working toward them. I mean, it's a little life hack that has served me well. So we talked about stories that of helping families understand heritage. So, there's several of them. Let's start with one that was really a bit of a surprise, and it was close to home. So I'm James Timothy Cole. Dad was James Thomas. I have an uncle James, no middle initial. James, no middle initial, great uncle of mine, was killed in World War II in the Philippines. As I began to serve in the military, I was curious about he and his unit, and I began to do some research and found out who he served with. Well, in the process of that, I found, in fact, my aunts helped me with we call it the letter home, right? It was the letter written to his mother, that would be my great-grandmother, by a soldier in his unit. That soldier's name was Sergeant Wink Evans. That was his nickname, Wink Evans. And turned out that Wink lived apparently in the next town over. So he wrote the letter to my great-grandmother. Well, some years passed, and I had done some research, and I was trying to find Mr. Evans, and I couldn't find him. And as I was beginning to read, I read of some valor, some great courage he showed in a couple of different battles. And when I was doing this research, I couldn't find his name on any of the award lists. And there's awards lists that are being kept at headquarters and at different record centers around the nation. Anyway, long story short, I end up calling the Army and said, hey, I can't find this particular gentleman. And anyway, they looked him up and they said, hey, Mr. Evans earned the Distinguished Service Cross, which is our nation's second highest award for valor. It's right behind the Medal of Honor. Mr. Evans has earned this award. And I said, I'm not seeing it anywhere in any of his awards. Well, it turned out Mr. Evans had passed away earlier in the 90s. But when the Army figured out that they had never actually awarded the Distinguished Service Cross to Mr. Evans or to his family, the Army, if you will, righted that wrong, if you will, and sent a 3-star general to little Sykeston, Missouri, and presented that medal to his daughter, his surviving daughter. This was back in the 90s. And so there's great honor, and that heritage is now allowed to be passed through his family. So we always hold Mr. Evans in great esteem for what he did for our family in that very kind letter home. Mm-hmm. It turned out that he also was a genuine and true hero, and now his family's aware of that as well. So that's one story, and there's a bunch behind it. I've enjoyed this for years.
Is that how you got started in all of looking at the medals of honor and different medals and recognition?
Yeah, so there's a couple different pieces of that. One is when I first joined the military service, I mean, like everybody else, when I saw somebody in uniform, I knew they had a lot of color on their uniform, but I didn't know what that color meant. But in the military, I began to understand what those ribbons, or what those are called, what those ribbons meant. And I learned that you could it's almost like a little biography if you know how to read them. If you know how to read those ribbons. Okay, so that person served in Korea. Oh, and that person served in Vietnam. And so I knew how to read the ribbons. That was the first start. And the very first person I did was my dad. I asked my dad about his stuff, and he said it doesn't exist. Like a lot of veterans, it's put away somewhere. Don't know where that stuff's at. So I asked if I could pull his record and get his awards for him. And it was powerful because Dad had kind of played it down. But when I actually got him his award, he thought he had one little medal. Turned out he had 3. And when I got it for him and presented it to him, he got emotional about it. And My dad had not talked about his service a lot, and I need to be fair here. It's not that he saw combat or whatever. It's just it was a really good time in his life because it pulled him out of a small farming community and introduced him to a larger world and helped set him up for success later in life. So it was fun watching his reaction, and I began to understand the value of helping the veteran understand our appreciation for their service, but also, in the case of Mr. Evans, helping the family understand the value of their family member's service. So,
well, and Mr. Evans isn't the only family member that you brought the awards or the attention of the awards to the family. You've told me a couple other stories that really are they're touching. They're so touching in what you're doing. And a lot of this you've done on a volunteer basis.
Yeah, I love doing it. I love doing it. It would be as if, Tanya, you have an area of expertise. You have an area you're able to translate, if you will, some knowledge or information that most people don't know how to translate. And that's our case today. Less than 1% of our nation serves in the military. So they don't understand, just like I did. Before I went into the service, I didn't know what that color meant, what those ribbons. Yeah. We all tend to know, hey, Grandpa served in World War II or Grandpa did this, but we don't know the details. Learning some of the details and learning what they actually did it's empowering for the family. It reminds us that our heritage is people have fought for freedom to get us where we're at today. We are the beneficiaries of their efforts. So.
Well, and you're not only looking at the medals, but you're looking at the history of the wars and what was going on during that time frame. So you're also writing a story along with putting the medals together, correct?
Yeah, and that's actually the fun part to me. So there's lots of people that can if I tell you ribbons A, B, and C, they can put those ribbons in a display case for you. What I enjoy doing is kind of the research and then telling the story. So let me tell you where Grandpa went. Okay, first of all, he went into theater with this division, and it was 22 days after D-Day. So he initially went into France. He then went to Belgium. His unit then got caught in the Battle of the Bulge. You're able to put some historical context to where they were and what they did. So now they know a whole lot more about Grandpa's story, because chances are Grandpa didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
Most of the World War II generation did not talk about what they did during the war. So it allows us to take some pride as a family member in what Grandpa did, or uncle, or even dad. And I would say that some of that carries forth today. Most veterans don't go build a display case for what they did in the service. They don't.
Right.
Now, if a spouse does it, or a child does it, or a friend does it, many times when a military member is retiring, a friend will put something like that together for them. But most people don't have that. And so for me, it's getting them to recognize their genuine service to the nation and then honoring it in some way. Doesn't always be a display case. What
an incredible gift that you bring to have that history, because I know even my recall of life events, I probably wouldn't even remember some of those details. And then when you can bring that forward is just such an incredible gift to not only the family, but to the veteran themselves.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to think, where does that come from? And I think, go back to the day, I loved American history for some reason, right? I mean, absolutely loved American history. And now to have that context of what was the nation doing, what was the military doing, what were the conflicts at the time. And then there's lots of books that talk about what unit did what and which location. So it's just a matter of marrying all that up and telling a story.
Yep. So if someone wanted you to put together the medals or tell the story on someone that they love and respect who's either retiring from the military or wanting to do a special birthday gift, how would you do that? How would they go about getting in touch with you, and what would you do?
Actually, I'm going to ask your help with that. So I'm in the process of setting up a website, and its title escapes me at the moment, but we're in the process of setting that up, and that will become available. And it's probably got something to do with Colonel Cole. Yeah, and otherwise, try to find me in Facebook or LinkedIn, Tim Cole, TIM space COLE.
Well, and you'll have a link right here through the Purpose Powered video. And And really, but so now we've gotten in touch with you, what's the process, or how long does it take to really pull all this information together? What is someone looking at to have you come in and do that?
Yeah. So it's a spectrum. And there are many families where all of that is kept in a box, if you will, somewhere,
Yeah.
and grandpa passes away and we don't really know what all it is. So if a family has a lot of that information, that actually helps and it can expedite. I'm not sure I've seen a complete record, but if most of that is available, then it's a really quick turnaround, just a few weeks. Mm-hmm. If, on the other hand, all we know is that we think Grandpa served in World War II in Europe, that's a longer process because we're going to need to go out and actually get some official records. And so we're actually going to access the National Archives. So there's a process by which we go and request those records. It can only be requested through the family. So I would work with you to get your family's records requested. Once those records come in, here's the next piece. Most people don't know how to read that military ease, right? All those acronyms and abbreviations, and I don't understand what this unit is. So then there's a little interpretation there, right? And translation. And then we can actually go pull the unit records for that specific unit and we start marrying time up when your veteran was there. That allows us to tell the story. It also will reflect toward the end of their career what their awards were. Now, that's another area. Sometimes those awards are correct. My dad thought he had one medal, and there was only one on his DD-214, but it turned out he actually had 3. So when the government replaced those medals, he actually got 3.
Oh, wow. I love the stories and the history that come with the medals. And you had shared with me that you actually got to place one of the highest, our nation's highest award for valor on one of the veterans. And can you share that story with us?
Yeah, that's a heartwarming story for me as well. So one of our Medal of Honor recipients, one of our surviving living Medal of Honor recipients from the Vietnam War is a guy named Doc Ballard. He was a Navy corpsman, hence the name Doc. Doc Ballard was a Navy corpsman with a Marine unit in Vietnam, and while there, he engaged in some significant heroism to save the life of his fellow Marines, and for that he was awarded the Medal of Honor. Doc was in town, and I was again hosting him and getting him where he needed to go. And before he went in to speak to some of our wounded warriors, that medal is allowed to be worn in your civilian clothes. And so he reached into some luggage and pulled out his medal and was about to put it on. And I simply asked him if I could help him with it. It's the only, most medals are pinned on.
Yes.
And medals, and they're pinned on. This particular medal we call it draped. It's draped. You've seen it at the White House when the president does it.
Yeah.
It's draped around the neck. So it's light blue in color, and it has 13 stars on it, and then there's a medallion that hangs from it, depending on your service. Doc said, yeah, I could help him with it. So I literally got to drape the Medal of Honor around Doc's neck before he went in to speak to these veterans. I've done a lot of things in my military career. I've pinned a few medals on in my day, but never have I got a chance to drape a Medal of Honor honor recipient. Again, that wasn't in official capacity. It was just to help him get inside, but it was a fun moment for me. And Doc's a great person, and I'm grateful to him for letting me do that. It was fun.
Yeah. So when he received the Medal of Honor, how did he receive that the first time?
So it's received usually at the White House. Back in World War II, once in a while, a general or something would do it if they were still in the war zone. But today, it's almost always done at the White House with the president, and it's the same kind of thing. It's draped around their neck. Many times, presidents will drape from behind. And I was joking with Doc because I was draping it. I was facing him as I was draping it or hooking it, and he said, "No, that's how the president did it when he received it back in the late '60s." So,
wow, that's exciting. Now, I have seen a photo of you where you're actually speaking, and you are in full uniform with all of your medals, and it's stunning. It's really stunning. So, can you tell me a little bit about your awards and honors that you've received and what those signify?
All right. So here's the great thing. First of all, in the military, Marines joke about embellishing, but when it comes to medals and awards, no embellishing. Seriously, none. It's all about. So what I have are what I would say are service awards and
Okay.
achievement awards. I have service awards and achievement awards, and I am proud to have earned those. But I do not have awards for valor, which again separates. That's where a Medal of Honor, Distinguished Service Cross, Silver Star, and Bronze Star. Those are awards for valor. So I've been to the war zone. I've served in the war zone. I have a campaign medal that says I was there, but I've not been awarded for valor. But so yeah, I think my 2 or 3 highest are the Defense Superior Service Medal and the Legion of Merit and a Defense Meritorious Service. So,
Well, I just find that really fascinating because you learn something new every day, and that was something that I learned, and it really puts into perspective the different types of awards that are given to our military and what those awards mean. And like you say, it's almost like speaking another language and being able to transcribe and tell the story of what all of these mean, so that when you see specific medals that maybe a family member will hand you, then you can start to tell that story in a new way. And you are an excellent storyteller. And well, in how you go and present these medals and how you tell that story, I mean, it's very impactful.
Yeah.
It's very impactful, and you're making a tremendous difference. Now, you do a little bit of speaking yourself, right? It looks to me like you'll be speaking on the same stage as Brian Tracy here pretty soon. What will you be speaking about?
So I really have been blessed. Brian Tracy's coming to Dallas in May, along with a number of other, Darren Hardy and Vic Johnson, a number of others, for a 2.5 day event. One of his segments is on leadership, and I'm going to get to open that particular segment for Brian, speaking a few minutes about leadership with my perspective, 31 years in the Marine Corps. So it's just a great opportunity. I'll tell you that when I've spoken in the past, that photo you're talking about I was addressing what we call a joint military audience in Washington, D.C., and certainly have spoken at schools and in front of our military units. But this is an opportunity to really kind of speak in front of a different crowd. It would be, primarily a civilian, a personal development crowd, some business owners, and get a chance to speak about my perspectives on leadership. So it's a great opportunity, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Well, you are truly a wise man, and you have an incredible family. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your family?
The background. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So we're Marianne, my wife, and I. We've been married now, coming up on 16 years. We talk about we're a blended family. I brought 3 daughters, and she brought 2 sons. Everybody was still in school back in those days, so we really did blend a young family. And nowadays, those 5 are grown. 2 of those 5 still serve in the military. We have a lot of school teachers in our family and a nurse. Of those 5, 2 are married. And of those 2 that are married, we now have 3 grandchildren. And I'll tell you, I just feel really blessed that our family really is in the place that it is today. When you go through those kinds of, when life hands you that kind of situation, you always, I did back then, always, worried about the worst. Well, what a great blessing. Kids are out there doing their thing, living their life, and we're just trying to pour into them. And now that next generation, those grandkids, love on them and pour into them. We're looking forward to a vacation this summer. First time we've done this, all of us are trying to get together this summer at one location.
Wow.
And then we're trying to set that up to be an annual thing. So family is important, as I know it is to you, Tanya. I appreciate the role model and leadership you demonstrate there.
Thank you. Family is important. And I hear that as kids get older and they move in different directions, that it really takes a lot of commitment on everybody's part to even get together once a year. So I see all the joy that you bring to your family. You also volunteer, and you were a big part of Snowball Express this year.
Yeah, that one will really tug at your heart. So for those that don't know, Snowball Express is a nonprofit organization here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that has national, if not international, impact. So Snowball Express is an event that takes the children, we call them the children of the fallen. So the men and women that are serving in the military who lose their lives while serving in the military. Now, with the recent global war on terror, the vast majority of those, are killed overseas as a result of our war. There are other families that lose them, to sickness and injury and other things. But those children across our nation are invited to come to Dallas just before Christmas. And that environment allows them to be with other children in the very same situation that they are.
Yeah.
Now, I said earlier, there's only 1% of our nation that serves in the military. So you can imagine there's very few classmates to a child who lost a parent to wartime.
Yeah.
So this brings them together, allows them to have conversations, friends. There's lots of kind of entertainment, and there's lots of honoring of their parents' service. There's lots of honoring of them. In fact, there's a couple of Christmas stores. The kids get to actually get some gifts for the surviving parent or their whoever their caretaker, caregiver. Anyway, it's a heartwarming event. These kids have lost a parent in the service of our nation, and it's other people giving back to them. It was heartwarming to me.
Yeah.
So I look forward to continuing to volunteer there.
Yeah.
It's actually one of several things I do. I'm working with character development in schools for middle school kids, and then do a lot with veterans, not just the Snowball Express, but we do something called Skywall and Salute to the Troops.
Yeah. So you've just had an incredible impact in your community and for our nation, and continuing to serve our military and our veterans. What advice do you have for someone who wants to live a purpose-powered life or make a difference in their community in their special way? What words of advice do you have for us?
You know what? I guess my perspective would be this. It was later in life when I began to understand the power of what you're just talking about, the power of understanding purpose and then applying deliberate actions toward that purpose. Again, some of my background, that blue collar background, I really believe, and also being male, I think the guys do this a lot too. We're in the do. We love just being busy and do.
Yeah.
And if you're not careful, you're going to be busy and do and look up, and the years are going to be passed. As opposed to, I believe we were called to a purpose. We were given a purpose. We've been given gifts, and we need to spend some time, emotional, mental, time, spiritual, thinking about what those gifts are and how we can apply those. And if my advice then to those listening would be, if you haven't spent some time doing that, please do. It's going to empower your life. It's going to allow you to have a greater impact on your family, your friends, and your community. And again, not that anyone's arrived. I feel like I was late to this game. But for me, the power of purpose is about authentic, deliberate efforts with the gifts that you've been given. And it's amazing what happens when you do that. Wow. You know that better than any of us. I mean, you're an amazing story yourself, Tom.
Well, you just have such an incredible servant heart. And I saw it the first moment that I met you at an event, at a networking event. And I've seen it as you are speaking about your family and your children and your grandchildren. And I see it in your service of volunteerism. And I see it in your service of working with people to really remember and honor their heritage and what our forefathers have done for us, and continuing that even in generations to come. So for me, I am deeply grateful for who you are and what you provide for so many people on so many levels. And I sincerely thank you for your time today, for your participation. And if you're someone who's watching this, please know that you can connect with Colonel Tim Cole on purposepoweredpeople.com, on Facebook. He's making quite an impact there. And also in our book, Purpose Powered People. And you'll see all of his contact information. And especially if you would like to know more history about someone you love who served in the military, Colonel Cole is definitely that person that you want to reach out to.
Happy to help. Tanya, thanks so much. I really appreciate the opportunity you, Jessica, and Gary have given me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And you go out and have a blessed day. Continue doing what you're doing. And I look forward to seeing you and talking to you again soon.
Thanks, Tanya.
All right. Take care.
Take care.